to Tuesday, October 7th, 2025 meeting of the Audit Committee is now
Enough of it.
called to order.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Can we call the roll?
Yes.
Sorry, should have waited for you.
Anthony Giordano,
Present.
Frank Sirabella,
Present.
Corinne Apollon, Alice Ho,
Present.
Marjorie Tinstag,
Present.
Shirley Obey, present. Kevin Troy,
Present.
Sarita Scott, Naveed Hassan.
Today, do we have quorum?
Yes, we do.
Quorum is achieved. Now, do we want to go automatically into executive session or
Gonna
you do a
do that
preface?
in my presentation.
Sure, okay. First order of business is agenda item 2, noting of the minutes of the Audit Committee of BERS held on May 13th, 2025. The minutes have been previously provided to the committee via the SharePoint site. May I have a motion to consider the minutes of May 13th? Do I have a second? Second. All in, do I have unanimous consent for accepting of the minutes of the May 13th meeting?
Aye.
Any opposition? Minutes are approved. Oh, I should have said any abstentions. Any abstentions? Minutes are approved. Okay, we're gonna move right into the executive director's update. Next item on the agenda is item 3, the executive director's update.
Thank you so much.
Sandy, would you like to share any remarks with us?
Yes, before this comes up in conversation, I wanted to have a brief discussion about staffing of internal audit. For those of you who are not familiar, well, you're all familiar with our budget process. We have made a request for significant headcount increase because of the 82% increase in membership. As a result of delays in that process, I have begun, that's me, sorry. I have begun to act as if we don't get any headcount. What that means is that I and my chief of staff, Michael Sohn, are evaluating all departments for headcount. Should we be put in a position over the next year or two where we don't get any headcount, yet we are burdened by new operating requirements, including movements of members from us to TRS through 551, other legal burdens from legal judgments, which I can't remember the name of that. Galeno case, and the increase in transaction volumes as a result of new members. The way we are thinking about this is there are 3 categories of job requirements. Those things we must do, those things we should do, and those things we would like to do. We have to prioritize those things we should do, which impact the economics of our members. Unfortunately, I categorize internal audit as something we should do. A day has had a number of her permanent staff headcount withheld by me. That will put pressure on her department. That will require her to use consultants to the extent that's available in the budget. And I know that puts a lot of pressure on her ability to deliver for this committee and for the board and for the agency in general. And she is at the front of this parade because of issues that I've had to deal with in terms of staff. I just wanted to be upfront with the committee about that. I'm hopeful that our budget is approved, we get new headcount, and I will not have to make decisions like this in the future. And I can give a day, not only those 2 open headcount that I took away, but also additional headcount. But this will impact her ability to deliver against her agenda. It will impact her ability to keep up with her scheduled audits. And that burden falls on me, not on her. That's about it. I'm happy to answer any questions about that. You know, to the extent we have a budget resolution which is approved in the next few months, this problem goes away. But it's a problem. And by the way, it will affect others other than today. You know, we are considering things like limiting counseling sessions. We are considering restaffing people from call center and counseling to areas and operations. These are all things we will have to consider over the next year or two if we don't get additional headcount. And we're preparing to do that by, like I said, categorizing staffing in departments as must, should, or would like. And there we go.
I would like to say, hey, Sandy, you and I have had this conversation offline as well, but I think that the function of audit is a must-do, so we could agree to disagree on that. Hopefully, our board meets and we're able to pass the budget and not have this come to fruition. But you know, what we've seen from the assaults from without, not within, politically, people don't want us sometimes. And I think it's important that we are, I think Aday's done a great job. I think Sandy, I think the executive staff has done a great job in terms of transparency and making sure that we're beyond reproach. But without audit, I think without internal audit being fully flexed, we are subject to potential attacks from outside in an easier fashion. So hopefully this is not that we're able to overcome this by getting quorum at our next board meeting and passing a budget and moving ahead. But one, and the other thing is I want Aday to have job happiness and satisfaction because we don't want to lose her.
I want that also.
100%. With that though, I appreciate you being so upfront with us, Sandy, and so frank.
This is a package.
Anything else, Sandy? Thanks. Any other questions from anyone? Okay, well, now we're going to move to the internal audit director's update. The next item is item 4. Jay, all you.
Thank you.
42nd.
Oh,
I don't know if there's a way to adjust that to see
no.
all the.
Is it because I'm ugly? Is that it?
Thank you.
I'll
This
start
is
if-
what she's seeing.
Okay.
Literally just, yeah.
I think I just switched it, if that worked, I'll start if that worked.
She said good.
Okay, awesome.
Well, no, the camera's going to go on you anyway. So, so we'll move to the internal audit director's update.
Yes, so on today's agenda, you know, as we always have completed audits, ongoing audits, and update on outstanding audit findings. So the first audit is the pension benefit payments audit. Just to give a background on this, this is an audit of the retirement benefit payments process. I wanted to point out that this audit did not cover the process of calculating or recalculating the actual benefit amount. That's going to be covered in a separate audit. But this audit covers the process of entering the benefit information into the system that does the payments after it's calculated. It also covers the process for ensuring that the correct amount and payment details are entered into the system for payment. And then we also covered the process for monitoring how pension benefit payments are suspended, how they're reactivated. And we also reviewed the process for proof of life verification. And then lastly, we reviewed the process for terminating and recouping pension benefits. So those are the processes that we covered. We did, well, I'm sorry, let me go into the objectives of the audit, what we hoped to accomplish with the audit. So when we went in, we wanted to evaluate the accuracy and timeliness of those pension benefits. Because pension benefit payments are bound by rules and regs, we also wanted to determine compliance with whatever policies and procedures applied. And then from an overall perspective, we wanted to assess the effectiveness of the internal controls over the pension benefit payment process. And for our scope, we covered transactions from January of 2022 to December of 2024. So it was a 3-year span. It was a pretty big audit. Lots of samples were selected, but I'll get into that shortly. So those were our objectives and our scope. As far as the findings, we came up with 4 of those. And the first one pertained to incomplete pension payment details and adequate segregation of duties. So the SOPM that governs the process requires benefit payment details such as direct deposit information, so bank account information, routing number, and tax withholding information. All those details are required to be entered into CPMS, which is our system of record, our ERP system. So those details are to be entered by one employee. And then overnight, there's an automated batch that transmits all of that information to the system that processes the payment, which we call PPMS, or Pension Payment Management System. And then the following day after that transmission has successfully occurred, a separate employee will go into the system and verify all of that information prior to disbursement. So that's how the segregation is achieved and the accuracy is ensured. So for this test, we reviewed 96 pension payment setups. And what we found was that in 65 of those setups, so approximately 68%, the payment details were not first entered into CPMS as required. Rather, the details were established directly in PPMS. And so that control of segregation was undermined. To detail that further, as a result of that, entry into CPMS being bypassed, we identified cases where inaccurate direct deposit details were entered into PPMS. We noticed that in 4 of those cases, the same employee established the details and then subsequently corrected them. We also noted cases where the tax withholding information was entered incorrectly. I have to point out that in all those cases, the corrections were made before the payments were actually disbursed. We also noticed, so the pension payroll unit works very closely with the debt benefits unit, and we noticed instances where there was sort of a role reversal. There were transactions that should have been done by debt benefits that were done by pension payroll and vice versa. So we did point that out to management as well. So we recommended for this issue that the SOPM be complied with and that the department requires all payment details to be entered into CPMS and then verified in PPMS by a different employee. And any instances of non-compliance should be tracked. The department did let us know that there are times when they have to catch the payroll, meaning payroll is closing that day and they don't have the luxury of waiting overnight for CPMS to transmit that information into PPMS. So we did recommend that they explore other options, to resolve that issue and to use that direct entry into PPMS as little as possible. So we also recommended that they implement ongoing monitoring of the discrepancies between CPMS information and PPMS information. And then we recommended that they use a lock feature that's available in PPMS. And then lastly, we recommended training. So we recommended that they train or retrain their staff on what the proper roles and responsibilities are for entering those details into PPMS and into CPMS. We also wanted them to emphasize the segregation and why those duties need to be separate.
Are these self-serve from the beginning? The user is implementing first and then or entering and then we're checking it?
When you say self-serve, do you mean like the member?
Yeah, the member is.
So this is when a member retires, BERS calculates the pension in a separate unit, and then that unit notifies this unit that, hey, these are 20 people who've retired, here's their pension information.
Got it.
And then the unit picks it up and then processes it in CPMS. Then CPMS exports that into PPMS.
And somehow there were, even though there was a high number of discrepancies, we managed not to send out improper payments, though. We
Yes.
caught somewhere along the line. Okay.
So we did note that I'm just going over high
No,
level
I got you.
details, but we noted that we always try to add a section of effective controls that we know, because, we don't want the audit to be all about what we found wrong.
Right.
So we did note that in the executive summary. So in response, management gave us a detailed plan on how they're gonna rectify and prevent this issue. So some of the things they're doing would be identifying and resolving system bugs and improvements, reviewing their processes to determine any bottlenecks and causes of discrepancies. They will also be monitoring and tracking segregation to make sure that it's being carried out. And then they're going to retrain and provide resources to their staff. Target.
I'm sorry. And I dare say that this is probably another issue that could be rectified with additional headcount. And there's probably a lot of times an issue with not having enough bodies to, and kind of workarounds to get the job done correctly in the end, but not in the exact perfect manner that it should be done.
Right. They did bring that up in one of their responses and they requested additional headcount. All right, so moving on to finding number 2, which pertains to weaknesses in their suspension and recoupment processes. So again, based on their SOPM, they are required to recoup any payments made in excess to a deceased member or beneficiary. So what usually happens is once a death is notified, the payments are immediately suspended. And if any recoupments are needed, they will reach out to the fiscal ops department who will try to reverse or cancel. And if that fails, they will notify the death benefit unit, which, if there are any death benefits due to the beneficiaries, that unit will try to recoup any excess payments from the death benefits payable. So we did review that process and we looked at 33 pension cases here. And there were weaknesses in documentation, segregation of duties, and that relationship again between the death benefits unit and the pension payroll unit. So we saw about 20 cases, approximately 61%, where the pension payroll unit's Excel records did not indicate who requested a reversal or cancellation of a pension. So they did have records, but they were incomplete. Right, so they couldn't readily identify who requested a suspension, who requested a reversal or a cancellation. We also noted cases where the death benefits unit both suspended pension payments and recouped overpayments, which should not be the case. We also noticed cases where, in 7 cases, recoupment was not initiated, even though payments were suspended. However, subsequently, in 1 case, recoupment was initiated after we, raised the issue to management. So what we recommended here was that, again, that they enforce segregation, improve collaboration with the death benefit unit and fiscal ops unit. And we also recommended that they leverage PPMS functions for suspended pension benefits.
Question, did the audit also include our process for identifying when members pass? And I know this is an issue with all pension funds in terms of making the determination and list generation and like that.
To a degree. So we looked at the process of proof of life affidavit. So we'll get to that, I think, in finding number 3.
Okay.
So we weren't squarely looking at death identification, but the process that we looked at correlates to that.
Yeah, I knew that was coming up in number 3.
All right, so we recommended that so management in their action plan will enforce internal hierarchy within their team. They will develop an assistant supervisor role and assign responsibilities accordingly. And then they're also going to retrain their staff on the importance of segregating those roles. Monitoring and compliance checks is another action that they will implement. And then they're going to review and report on the outcomes of their action plan. Target date for this is June of next year. So finding number 3 pertains to life affidavits and pension payment verification. So for for retirees who are 85 years or over, retirees who have 3 consecutive uncashed pension checks, and also retirees to whom the life affidavit has been sent and they haven't responded for 3 consecutive months, are all required to be suspended based on the standard operating procedures manual. That said, the team did inform us that in practice, they only suspend after 5 consecutive months of uncashed checks. So that is kind of at variance to what's in their standard procedure. So we did review 19 of these cases where life affidavits were issued. For those 85 and above, we noted instances where some of the affidavits were not available. There were mismatches between notarization dates, just some improprieties in how the forms were completed and returned.
Forms need to be notarized?
Yes, they need to appear.
Wonderful. 85 years old, you start getting a letter every month. Are you alive? And okay.
So,
Sorry, and notarize it. Thank you.
yeah, they have to appear. And then we also noted instances where there were outstanding checks. However, the pension continued going on. So the checks were outstanding for more than 5 months. In some cases, more than 60 days past the 5 months, and pension continued. So we recommended that they enforce those life affidavit requirements and track them. We also recommended again to improve oversight and segregation of duties. We also recommended that they reject and follow up on improperly completed life affidavits. So management agreed they will improve the life affidavit distribution process. They gave us details on how they plan to go about that. They will update their SOPMs to clearly specify what the criteria are for suspending pension payments. And then they're also going to provide form completion guidelines to the members. And again, they will retrain their staff and establish a follow-up system with members, so or retirees. So when they don't return after a certain period of time, they will be more proactive in following up. Target date again is June of next year for all of that. And then lastly, finding number 4 had to do with the EFT authorization forms and direct details. So we noted that they weren't consistently following the process documented in their SOPM. They're required to obtain, so if a retiree is receiving their pension via EFT funds, electronic deposits, there are certain requirements. So they have to complete an EFT form and provide supporting documents such as a voided check or a savings deposit slip. And in the absence of that, the payments are made by check. So we pulled 96 cases to review that process, and we found that they were not consistently following their set procedures. In a total of about 49% of cases, we did find several discrepancies. So we had forms that were submitted without a voided check or savings deposit slip, and for some of those, the EFT setups were still processed. We had some instances where there were mismatches between the bank account on the EFT form and the bank account on the voided check, and they were still processed. We found instances where the wrong form was used for alternate payees and beneficiaries. And then we found one instance where the notarization page was not available. Although payments were made to the correct recipients in these instances, there appears to be a lack of specific standards, right, for gathering and reviewing these payment details. So we recommended that they update their SOPM to clearly specify those standards so that when the staff are reviewing these forms, they know exactly what to look for. We also recommended that they coordinate better with the member services team, particularly at retirement counseling. So when those members are here to retire and they're appearing before a counselor, we want to make sure that those forms are properly completed. So management agreed they will improve their form review procedures. They will provide completion guidelines again for members, retrain their staff, and then monitor and report on compliance with their implemented actions.
This seems to me to be an antiquated method of establishing ETF payments. I don't know, they now with electronic methods, you're able to verify accounts much more rapidly electronically than the antiquated matching up. So I don't know, maybe there's some workaround in terms of technology that we could look at down the road, but that's neither here nor there.
Best practice then when visiting a benefit examiner, that the future retiree then at that point bring a copy of a canceled check with them so that it's handed directly to the examiner and that's done.
Yes, I will, I'll bring that up to the unit. I don't know if that's currently happening. It's possible that it's happening, but I'm not aware, so I'll note that. Thank you.
As usual, very thorough, very in-depth report. Well appreciated.
Thank you. So, looking for people.
Okay,
Next on the agenda, just a quick rundown of the audits that are currently going on within our team. So first is the payroll procedures audit. This is an audit that is done per the controller's directive on an annual basis. Or when it's not done annually, it's done such that there's coverage throughout the entire period. So here we're reviewing timekeeping, approvals, and related processes. Next is the cash account audit. So the cash account is a holding account where deductions or payments are usually diverted when they're not able to be readily posted to a member's account. So when CPMS first went live, a lot of transactions were going into the cash account. We did an audit back in 2021 and we're cycling back to the audit again. Loans process audit. So we're looking at the accuracy and timeliness of loans processing and the internal controls there. So QPP loans or pension loans and TDA loans. So those are the three internal audits that are ongoing. For external, we have the DFS audit, which they have sent us a pre-exam request. We've responded. It was a very big request, lots of documents. So we've sent that over. And they did let us know that they will officially kick off the audit sometime in November.
is this part and parcel or is this separate from when the controller's office had sent a letter to DFS regarding BERS and our processes?
Well,
Or is this a
their
regular
perspective,
audit?
this is a regular audit. So
Okay.
they audit us once every 5 years.
Right. And we're behind on that,
Yes.
but then subsequently, or in between this, there had been the controller's letter that was addressed, and that's separate from this.
From our perspective, we don't know what DFS did regarding that letter.
Okay.
But as far as we know, this is the next audit cycle. in
Got
their regular.
Okay.
And then we'll go in, in one of the next few slides, we'll talk about the current DFS, well, the past DFS audit that was just reported on, but we'll get there shortly. And then we also have the annual audit of BERS's financial statements by Grantham. So those are 5
So
audits.
upcoming.
It's ongoing right now.
We're not reporting on these today.
No. They will, Grantham usually reports on that to the entire board. So usually around December.
Right.
Late November, December.
I'm interested, they ask always about the cash account audit in their inquiry with me, they ask about, and I have no idea about, so I'm interested in the cash account audit. They always seem to ask that question. Okay.
So this is just a quick highlight of prior audit findings and where they are. So I'll just run through this quickly. So some of the findings that were remediated after the last audit committee meeting were, so we had identified an issue with enrollment dates in the enrollment audit that we did. Now they have ongoing monthly reporting to address the discrepancies. They also are updating the enrollment SOPM to reflect auto enrollments. So the SOPM was updated for those procedures. We also had done an audit on dormant accounts, and BERS has now developed a very robust SOPM document that cuts across multiple departments on how these accounts are addressed. And they also are now running the 5-year out batch. So it's the batch that will identify dormant accounts that need to move into that status. Now they're running that in production. They do have improvements scheduled, but at least it's running in production now. For MSS, so member self-service online registration, the team has established a prepare and verify requirement. So when one person enters the member's details, another person follows and verifies that. And for monthly bank reconciliations, these are now being done on a monthly basis as of August.
There's a question about those prepare and verify requirements established. If a person makes a change on their account and when you're saying somebody falls up behind them and does it, is there an email that is sent or some kind of action or transaction that lets the customer or the pensioner know that that change was made?
I would have to find out. This was an audit that we did maybe a couple of years ago where we identified discrepancies, right? So we just wanted them to go back and verify. As of when the audit was done, I would have to check. I don't recall. I mean,
Can we also, so could I make the suggestion of making that a best practice to now it's not just in the hands of us, but also letting the customer know you're responsible for your data. Here's the update you made.
I can shoot, if there's time, I can shoot a quick message to
Yeah,
find out.
no, but I want to put it more into the customer's hand and not necessarily always putting it on us.
We
If
can
we
come
don't
back to
have-
this in the next meeting for sure.
Okay,
The,
yeah, I'm not up to date on that.
added to that, I know there was some defections from, based on legislation from BERS to TRS. I think it was 1,200 or something over the summer. And so they should be, everyone should be aware that, I don't know if how this is being handled internally by SOPM or by whomever, but that these accounts are, made sure that we shut them off here when they move to the other location, that we're properly accounting for that.
Yeah, they absolutely do. So when they transfer out, their account status will change to withdrawn, transferred out.
Okay, and that only, I think that it's what, 12/31?
Earlier.
551?
The
Earlier.
transfer, the ability of TRS, BERS members to transfer to TRS.
551, yeah, it ends
December.
December 15th or something. Yeah, it's an odd day. You have to do it with legislation in a running year.
Keep saying 551. What is that?
That's the legislation.
Much.
Yeah,
I always forget that too.
last update I got, there were 983 requests. They've slowed down significantly.
They gave an aggregate number at the last TRS meeting I was at, of over the summer. I think it was a 3-month period, I think. So from June to, I think it was 1,200.
What was their count?
I think it was 1,200.
1,200? Yeah, except that, see, what's interesting about their count is it's their count of people they believe are going to, and our count is people who actually
done it.
request.
Okay.
Which is kind of a.
That's above my no pay grade,
although
so.
The prize goes to our head of counseling who said, yeah, it's gonna be under 1,000. We thought that was really low, but yeah, that's 1,000 to
Okay.
20,000
Okay.
potential transfers.
So just an update. So when, just been informed that when they make those changes, the enrollment unit will send them a letter. So like.
A letter.
Yes, if they update their address by mail, they will write them back confirming the address update.
They should send back an affidavit notarized that they received the letter. No, I'm just kidding. Joking.
So how often do we use email?
How often do?
Sustainability. How often do we use email and not just send a letter?
If our member is write to us via email, we'll correspond with them back and forth. But I know like a lot of the emails that we have on file will just be like the DOE email that people will automatically get. And say you're a school lunch helper, it's not a
Might disregard
computer
it.
job, we're not using that email. So
But I also do get the sense that they are technologically linked in, that they can use an email server.
So many don't though,
Still
Alice. They just don't.
We're in the in-between stages of transferring.
Yeah.
So the members are not, the members are not able to make those changes directly online. So they would have to submit like the address change and things like that, so they would write back. But when they submit transactions, like for it to apply for a loan or whatever transactions are allowed online, change by beneficiary or something, I do get an email back saying I made changes.
Next.
So next is just the findings that are currently open and how they're distributed. Quick rundown of what's currently open. So recalculation of debt benefits due to chapter 716 is ongoing. Debt benefit verification, there were some segregation issues there that we flagged that are being worked on. Same thing with prior service reconciliation that they're being worked on. There were some issues there with system improvements that they need to implement, so it's gonna take some time. Suspension of participant accounts for suspicious activity, you know, still, was due in June, but still being worked on. Manual refunds approvals, segregation was also an issue that we noted there that's being worked on. And then lastly, the contract agreement with TRS is still not in place, currently slated for next year, May of next year.
And we haven't had a contract for what? 18 years?
Never,
Never had a contract.
we don't,
Okay.
Enabling legislation said it was supposed to be renegotiated every 3 years or 5
5 years.
5 year.
Okay.
It never was done.
Never done.
So, external audits, this was from the controller's audit. The last time the auditor was reported this in 2024. They asked that we revise the board's bylaws. That's on the schedule for the next, as of when I did this, the meeting was going to be today. So it's on the agenda for the next board meeting. Procurement, BERS specific procurement policies are being drafted and scheduled for Q2 of FY26, which is December of this year. And then again, the bank regs were also recommended by the Comptroller's Office, and they are up to date as of August. All right, so DFS audit. So this was an exam of BERS's governance, including but not limited to fiduciary, financial, actuarial, investment, risk management, information technology, and member treatment. So the scope for this audit was July 2013 through June of 2018. And this was reported out to us. The audit wrapped up sometime in 2020, right after the pandemic started.
Wrap is such a unclear word.
Yeah, so at that time, they gave us a write-up of some of what their findings were, and then we officially received the draft audit report in November of 2023, and then the final report in September of 2025. So the trustees have printed copies. It's a very big report, 60-something pages. So I'm just going to show the document that includes their recommendations and BERS's responses, and just from a high level, we'll go over that pretty quickly.
We have to be in executive session for this?
Not yet.
It's all public.
So they did give us two reports. One of them was for the examination of BERS, and the other one is the investment analysis report. So two separate reports. So this is for the examination of BERS, which is more of the overall, everything except for the investments. So they recommended a few things to BERS, several things to the actuary, and then a few things to the controller's office. So I'll just quickly go over the BERS stuff, and then I'll hand it over to Chief Actuary to cover the actuarial stuff. So they recommended that we have all board members and committee members attend meetings. We agreed. They wanted us to document, in the board minutes, any designees nominated to attend. We agreed and we'll do so. They wanted us to have procedures to ensure bylaws are being periodically updated. We agreed. Amendments will be on the next board meeting. They wanted us to develop procedures, policies and procedures to communicate with members who separated from service. So AKA dormant accounts. This is largely taken care of. So, I believe accounts that are expiring within a 1-year time frame are being reported by the data analytics team to member communications, and then they reach out to those members and let them know that their accounts are coming up on expiration and let them know what their options are. They also recommended that BERS use the Social Security Death Match database. BERS, as of March 2024, procured LexisNexis and is using that as its death match service on a quarterly basis to identify deceased members. This actually led to an identification of a large number of deceased recipients. I did put that in the pension benefit payment report, so there's details of that. They also recommended that we develop policies and procedures to comply with NYCBERS section. So this is pretty much required minimum distributions for pension accounts. At the time, this wasn't being done, but now BERS is doing this. In fact, the first such refund was issued, such distribution was issued in July of 2024. They also recommended adding a fraud warning statement on the forms. This is being worked on between the legal department and the communications team. They recommended revising the procedures for procedures documented and approved by the board. That will help to minimize errors. So the response here is that these procedures are regularly coded into CPMS as they come up to make sure they're automated and minimize errors. So this is where we get into the actuarial computations. And Sharon?
We should go into a quick attorney-client. Can I have a motion to go into?
Yeah, so do we need a motion for that even? I don't think we need a motion for attorney client, but we'll take it.
Sure, I think.
Yeah, I don't think we need a motion for that, actually.
So,
Hey, can you stop the record?
yeah.
We are now an attorney client.
So are we officially in attorney-client right now? I'll pause it right now.
As of now, yes, right now, we're an
Okay.
attorney client.
And does
Okay, recording has resumed.
Thank you, coming out of attorney client privilege discussion of a audit state entity.
All right, so there were two components to the report. The second one, just 1 second. So this is the report on the investment analysis that DFS also conducted. They provided separately. Again, they had several recommendations here for BERS and consulted with the Office of the Actuary and the Bureau of Asset Management. Pam wasn't able to attend, but they will hopefully attend the board meeting to speak on any of their recommendations. But wanted to see if the trustees had any questions on this report as well.
Well, this should also include our investment department and our investment consultants.
Yeah, so Salil is call if there are any questions.
I think any questions on this at this point? I think again, with that, well, that should be in consultation with our investment consultants and our own investment.
So there are no questions.
Any questions? Any questions? No.
So if there are no questions, that will conclude.
Four, that was right. Okay, the next item on the agenda is agenda item 5, committee discussion. Can I have a motion to consider? Second,
Second.
acclamation on agenda item 5. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, agenda item 5. The only thing I could think of offhand is that I think we don't have an alternate for Alice.
Right, so at the next board meeting, have hold an election. One little thing, so with the audit plan, based on, staffing constraints that Sandy talked about earlier, I'm going to be reevaluating. We had 2 other audits that we were planning to kick off this year. I will most likely be rescheduling those for early next year, but I will report that at the next audit committee meeting.
Perfect. And it's going to be on the agenda to appoint an alternate for Alice.
On the board.
Any other issues that need to be brought up today? Anyone have any questions, additions? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Hey.
Any abstentions? Motion carries. We are adjourned.